All set. In this video, you're going to learn how to do cohort analysis using simple Python techniques. Cohort analysis, it's a type of behavior analysis where you study a group of people programmatically and explain their behavior in the subsequent time periods. For example, it's a group of people who started their behavior and how are they repeating that behavior in the subsequent time periods. So that is what basically the cohort analysis means. If we go by the definition of what do you mean by cohort, let's visit here. What do you mean by cohort? It's a group of people with some shared characteristic. Okay, so in terms of data analysis, we have to extend that definition a little bit and see. So what it means here, we are here studying what cohort and analysis. Okay, so what it exactly means is here we are saying this is what the dictionary definition says: a group of people with a shared characteristic, along with that associated with some time, So this is how you need to see the definition of a cohort when you're doing data analysis. Okay, and then what is analysis here? So this is the definition of cohort: a group of people with shared characteristics, and that characteristic is associated with some time period. And then what are we analyzing here is how is their performance, how is the performance of that particular characteristic or some other behavior of that group is changing in future. So this is what we are analyzing, the behavioral change of a group of people who are associated with some time. So this we can see it as say in your business that certain group of people are in some state. The state means some attributes or some status is assigned to them that is associated with some time period, maybe in a month or a week or a day or a year, or that in certain time period certain group of people are in certain state, right? So for that group of people you want to measure some metric, okay, either in terms of the time, revenue, or their retention. So there are different types of how are they performing in the following time periods. So that is the abstract definition of what you mean by cohort analysis. If you take an example, so maybe if you, in case of a hospital, an hospital here, people admitted in January. So if you take that as one group, so here when you say admitted, so this is the state. This is the state at which the certain people are there in certain time period, that is January. So this is one cohort. This is one group of people who are sharing a characteristic. What is the characteristic here is admitted and associated with time in January. This is first cohort. Okay. So now what are we studying and explaining their behavior? How many revisits? This is the performance metric, you can say it as here. So are they revisiting the hospital again? Maybe in the next, what are the following time periods? Next 12 months. Here we call it as month because we took as month here. Right. So the next cohort here of the same business, this is the second cohort, is that the people admitted in February. Okay. So and then we are comparing that and we are studying the same metric for them for the next 12 months. So if this is how we are analyzing and comparing the cohorts like this. So you're going to group the people of your business. If your time period of study is for 1 year, so that is from January to December, you organize the data of the patients in such a way that you first find the patients who are admitted in January and call it as cohort 1, and the people who are admitted in February you call it as cohort 2, and people who are admitted likewise in December you call it as maybe cohort 12. So this group of people, you are going to study their next, how are they revisiting the hospital either for consulting or for readmission or for various other reasons, are they coming back to hospital in the next 12 months. For this group, what are the next 12 months is from February. Next is from February to that is from February to next January, maybe here. So like this, for this group, this is from, if you consider this as 0, the time period as 0, so you're going to study for the next 12 to 3, like this, 12 time period till the 12 month from here, starting there. So if you consider this as, for everyone you consider their current month as 0. So for this cohort, February as 0. Starting February, you're going to study the same, their revisits from subsequent months. So for this person, for this group, the first month is February. For this group, the first month is March, like this. So this is how we are going to, this analysis studies each group for subsequent time periods. So respectively, for the respective subsequent time periods. So this is very important in making business decisions, in order to see how their behavior changing based upon their initial state. Based upon the initial state, if the number of readmissions are more in a particular cohort, in particular group, probably that will indicate some changes required to be done, or something has happened in that time period. Like this, you can extend this definition. There are n number of, this is a very popular use case in business where you can apply it in many ways. I mean, it's applicable in several business scenarios. For example, if you're instead of hospital, you can think of automobile industry. So where you put up your car for servicing. I mean, if you're running a workshop, the number of cars which are given for servicing in your workshop, and then maybe and you see and you calculate the number of complaints that are raising that you have received in the subsequent months, right? And if your business is to provide an internet service as a service provider, with a broadband service provider, every week you want to see how many new customers have entered your business, have subscribed to your business, and the people here, the state will be the number of new connections. The time period is 1 week. So for the week 1, how many new connections, new customers have taken the subscription of your service, and then the metric will be the number of complaints that they are raising it in the next subsequent weeks. So if people joining in a particular week have raised more complaints, which means to say probably installation problems. You can see it as installation or wiring problem, or could be something like that. So those sort of indicators are very helpful for business to take it up a timely decision on that. Similarly for restaurants, maybe it's all our weekend wise, the number of people who are the new visitors to your restaurant. Here the state would be a restaurant, state would be the new visitors, and the time period could be weekends. Okay, so on a particular weekend, the new customer, who are the new customers that have that have visited, those have visited your restaurant on a particular weekend, how on subsequent weekends, so are they revisiting again? And the metric need not be revisit. The metric could be the amount that they are spending, their spend analysis, maybe the amount that they are spending on your food items, on your online orders or food delivery, or those metrics that we can analyze on those cohorts. So what we need to understand here is that in a particular analysis, on a particular analysis here, okay, the state would be common for all cohorts, and all cohorts here in our analysis are divided by time period. Okay, so and for different analysis, if you're doing a different and you can change the state, then that becomes a different cohort analysis on that, right? And for a specific cohort that you have selected, for a specific type of cohorts that you have selected, you can have n number of measurements here. Not only revisits, it could be how much time that they are spending, or how much money that they are spending, or how many referrals that they have provided in your business. Likewise, if you're running a store, and if you're running a membership program or a loyalty program or a campaign on a particular the month, so you can see the effectiveness of that campaign, like how many people have joined in a particular month, and a metric could be how many loyalty points that they have gained in the subsequent months on that. So the metric is one to many. So for in one cohort analysis, you can measure so many measurements, in a number of ways you can do the performance measurements. So in one analysis, you will group the people by a specific state across time periods, and this time period is equivalent to the following time periods. So if you are measuring by day, so here you need to measure the metrics by day. If it is week, your week. If it is year, here it is year. Okay, so hope you got some brief understanding about what is cohort. And now we're going to see this in code by using Python code. How we can let's get to use some dataset, public dataset, which is shared on Google, Kaggle, and then we will go through some code in order to understand how to do this cohort analysis in Python and get first-hand experience on that. Okay, all set. Let's start that. Okay, let us use this dataset that is available on Kaggle for our analysis to demonstrate cohort analysis, how to transform this in Python. Okay, this dataset is a hypothetical dataset that shows the customer transactions in purchasing certain bikes. I downloaded this dataset, and the transaction tab of this Excel file, this data file, contains around 20,000 transactions. There is this count here. 20,000 transactions of customers in purchasing various brands of bikes and the transaction date is available here. So now what we need to do here is how many customers have started purchasing at your store, at this store, based upon the date in each month, in which month they have started purchasing this at your store, and are they continuing to purchase in subsequent months or not. So that is the analysis we are going to do and appraise business in terms of saying this is the retention rate of your business based upon the initial period of the customers. Let's take this dataset into first I'm reading this dataset into a data frame and setting the header. This is how it looks. This is same as what we have seen in this Excel sheet. Here each row contains the customer ID and the transaction date, whether it is approved, order status is, order is approved or not. So basically we are filtering it with approved, so we can consider all these 19,821 transactions are approved transactions where the customers have purchased all through the year at certain transaction date. Let's find out now. Let's take these are the two fields of interest which are sufficient for us to perform cohort analysis and find out how the customers are behaving in their subsequent months. So what we are doing here is that take only those two columns into another data frame. I just took them into one data frame, so this contains only the customer ID and the transaction date. Now let me find out what is the transaction month. So we are going to our time period here, as per our previous thing, our time period here is going to be month, and the state is the initial purchase. when did they initially purchased, in which month have they initially purchased. Even before that, let's find out the time period. The time period here, decide on the time period is month. So let me translate this transaction date into month here, year month format. So this is the month in which this customer has purchased it, and this transaction has happened in this month, 2017-05. Now what is the start month? This appears to be a long integer, so let me shorten this and give a unique number or unique digit for each month, so it is easier for us to calculate or to analyze. So let me subtract the initial month from each of these values, so that we will get the single digit index for each month. So what is the start month in this data set is 2017-01, and I'm just indexing the months, and I'll get, so 2017-02 means 01 means 0, and 02 means 1, 05 means 4, 2017-10 means it is the 9th month of this data set. So all these transactions are now represented as the customer ID and the index and the month index when this customer has made some transaction. Okay, so at this stage we know there are 19,821 transactions that have happened, and in which month has each of this transaction happened, so that we know from this data set. Now what we also need to know is that in which month the customer has purchased this for the first time. So that is because that is what the state is. So when was the initial purchase done by the customer in this data set? So let me take the minimum of that of this transaction month, and I'm creating a new data set that will show. This data set is showing all transactions. This data set, I want a data set that shows the first transaction of each customer. So when I do this, I have around 3,493 customers in total, and this column represents in which month each of the customer had the first transaction. So this customer 1 has the first transaction in the month 0. This customer 5 has done the first transaction in 2. So as per our analysis, this is the state. The state here is the initial transaction is done by the customer in that particular month. So this is our cohort month. So now if we join these two data sets, this data set representing each transaction, all transactions, and this data set showing only the first transaction of the month of the customer. So when we join, so we are going to get a good, more informative data set which shows all the transactions, which shows this is the customer ID, and this transaction has happened in this month, and the customer has joined this business in this month. So this shows that this transaction was done in the 9th month of this data set, and in fact the customer has joined the business in the in month 0, that is January. Similarly, this customer, this is another data set. Okay, this customer has joined in month 1, that is February, and this transaction has happened on July. Okay, right. So now we need to have one more column that represents this month index in terms of the customer's initial period. Okay, so this is 4th, for example, this is the 7th month as per the calendar, but this is the 6th subsequent month for this customer, because this customer has joined the business in month 1, and this transaction has happened in 7th month of the calendar, in the seventh, in the month index 7 as per the data set, but as per this customer this is 6. Same way, for as per this customer this is 0. That means the same month this transaction has happened, the same month as the customer has joined. So let me take that into, now I'll get that as cohort index. So this transaction, which means to say has happened in this. So what this particular data set tells is that the customer 3135 has joined the business in in month 1, and this transaction has happened in 6th month after the customer has joined. So this we consider it as cohort index, and the month when they joined is cohort month. The month when they perform the transaction, that is cohort index. Perform the transaction with respect to their month of joining. The month in which they have performed the transaction with respect to their cohort month is your cohort index. Okay, so only these 3 are important for us now: customer ID, cohort month, and cohort index. These 3 are important for us. Now let me run this. So let me take this into a fresh data set. So 19,821 transactions that we initially have seen here. This we have finally transformed the data set into these 3 columns, which are representing the customer when they joined and when this transaction has happened with respect to their month of joining. Right, good, happy. So now let's see, there is one catch here. So what we need to know is whether now let's see what is the metric we are going to analyze. The metric we are going to analyze here is that whether that person has done any transaction in the subsequent month, or not. That means whether the person has done at least one transaction in the next month. In the next month, then we'll say that there is a revisit. The customer is still with business. If the person has not done any transaction in a given month, that means the customer might have left the business. That means it's a what you call churning has happened or something. We lost the customer. So for that, what we need to see is that in this 19,821, one customer might have made multiple transactions in a subsequent month. So that we need to avoid. Take it off there. That is redundant data, and that may influence our analysis. So let's remove the duplicates from that. So when we do that, now the rows, see the difference. 19,821 rows now got reduced to 15,774. So the difference, approximately around 4,000 difference, is more towards the same customer has done multiple transactions in subsequent month. So that is how you remove the duplicates now. Now when we are in a state, we don't have the duplicates, so we know how many transactions have happened, and we know the initial period of that customer, and also in which subsequent month the customer has performed the transaction. From this, we need to put it in a way that they can easily understand that. They're easy to analyze on that. Now let's group by customer ID. Now let's group by the customer ID and then count how many transactions the customer has done in the subsequent months. Good. So this is a total transaction from business point of view. So this is how, when we group it by the cohort month, so this data frame shows in cohort month 0 there were 1,347 customers for whom their month of joining is 0, and they have did transactions during first month during their month of joining, the same 0. And out these one, not just these, and there are 483 customers whose month of joining is 0, and they transacted 1, and they did some transactions in the subsequent month 1, and 505 customers for whom they joined in the 0th month and did perform the transaction in the second month. So if you want to know how many people have joined in the month of in a particular month, then you just have to group by only by this, and we'll get the customer count on that. Okay. So now let's do a pivot table of this. So this 78 is a combination of cohort month and cohort index here. Let's do a pivot table here and then find out exactly. Okay, so out of this 1347 customers, only 483 have done the so this is how the pivot will look like. So 1347 customers have joined in the in month 0, and out of these 1347, only 483 have purchased it in the subsequent month, and out of these 1347, only 505 has purchased during the in month 2, in month 3 499, like this, and in month 10 492, and month 11 510. Out of this specific group of 1347 customers. Likewise here, if you take this, in month 5 123 customers have joined the business, for whom the month 0 is, the time period 0 is 123, so the time period is 0. That means 123 customers have joined the business in the month 5. In month 523. Out of this, only 45 have purchased back in the subsequent month 1. That means in the 6th month. And in 7th month, they purchased, only 44 purchased. In the 8th month, only 47 purchased. Likewise, in 8th month, 24 people have joined, customers have joined the business, and only 8 have done in the next month. That is, for them it is first subsequent month, that is in the 9th month. In the 9th month, only 8 have purchased out of this 24, and only 7 have purchased from this 24 in the 10th month. So this is a very good indicator of where the percentage is more in the subsequent periods, in the subsequent months. Okay, so let's see it in the form of percentage, because here it's difficult to compare, is 8 out of 24 bigger or 483 out of 1347, 1347 better. That's why to think on that. Let's just do cross check by doing a percentage here, translating that into percentage. Okay, so it's almost similar, the percentage of so we need to focus on acquisition rather than on retention, because retention is almost same as the first month. Here 36% that you're able to retain, here 33 you're able to retain, but whereas the initial count is 0, is less here in 24 and versus 1347. So the decision should go towards acquisition rather than on retention. Now the first graph, let's put it in a plot and see in a say one plot. Now I can easily, it is very easy for business to understand. In the cohort month 1347, the people 483 have retained, and of course 510 are retained till month 11. That's good. I mean, and let's put the same thing here in the percentage also in some heat map and see how it looks like. Okay, so this clearly shows, I mean, the retention is more or less, the retention is very low here, and retention is much better in 7th month. Not sure, like in the initial, the first month retention, which month is better in the first month retention, second month retention, and third month, if there is anything specific has happened with respect to a particular cohort. So this is our first cohort, the people who have joined the business in month 0, and then they are showing a standard and a stable retention all through the year. Whereas the second cohort who have joined the business in month 1, that's in February, they showed immediate that there was more purchases in the next month, but slowly it went down. Okay, of course they are also a little stable after that, but there is there is a very good steep rise in the subsequent month, right? These people are showing consistent rise. The people who have joined the business in second month are showing consistent rise here and also rise here to some extent. So this helps business in terms of understanding where they need to put more efforts. So it's a pure decline here. Okay, so the people who joined in 7th month, month 7, have shown a high amount of interest in the second subsequent month, but slowly started going down. Okay, right, so this is how we can do the cohort analysis, and by using simple pandas and CMap, say matplot here in using Python code. Well, I hope you understood some techniques here, and this will help you in adding more value to the data and making business more predictable. Okay, right, thank you for joining, and let's meet in the next video.